So it is July, and there has been another major update to the game, patch notes of which you can see here. And there were quite a few quite nice changes and additions in this update, actually. So we have the cavalry version of Sararer and Vorian added, some filtering options, a means to skip Westeros Encounters, which is so nice and has been asked for so long at this point, a new chest in the Weirwood shop, and a bunch more changes, as you can see here. Cassana is the big addition, but obviously that's quite a niche group of people who will actually be able to have access to her. So for the stuff which is actually relevant to most players, we have here the new random commander chest in the Weirwood shop. This is currently bugged and I cannot see it, but each chest will cost 4,000 of these Weirwood tokens for a buy limit of 500. So you'll need 2 million of these Weirwood tokens to be able to buy this out every month. What is inside it, you can see an example of here. So it is all the commanders that are currently purchasable in the Weirwood shop, plus everything that is purchasable in the recruitment pass shop, and everything that is in the, I believe it's the outstanding commander medal packs. So that's Hector, Melisandre, Miranda, Andrea, and Lena. So it's a way for free-to-play players to be able to farm up these, what were paid-for commanders, which is really nice. I will probably do a video on this in the future, going over the drop rates of this chest. At a quick glance, you would imagine the outstanding commander medal pack commanders have probably about 25% drop rate in total compared to all the other commanders if you just look at the medal numbers here. So that is a very, very nice addition. The Westeros Encounter skip, you can see here on alt up just to be able to show it. So just click through it as normal, and then there's the skip button at the bottom. You click that, and it's all gone. This is the first time I'm ever doing it, so apparently you still have all these pop-ups. Okay, so it's still a bit wonky, and you're going to have to click a bit, but I would hope at least it's not as oppressive as it used to be. I don't even want to know how many Westeros Encounters this account will have. Maybe I should have tested this before I started recording. I just assumed it would work normally, and it doesn't seem to. So it would seem like this is also going to have to be bug fixed, unfortunately. As you can see there, all the Westeros Encounters have loaded up. If I go in and out of city view, is it going to let me do anything, or is it going to keep showing these? Okay, well, that was unexpected. I sort of just assumed that would work, but it seems not. That will assumedly be bug fixed though, work sooner or later, because that is obviously not intentional. The skip button is meant to work. And although it seems that is going to continue to be annoying, for the other changes in the update, we have those filtering systems for rallies from the Rookery. So I think with the rally filtering, this is mostly going to be useful for blocking things like the NPC rallies with the Night King invasion, because that was annoying a lot of people, where you just had constant rally notifications, which would just never ever end. And with the Rookery filter system, go in here and go to personal, and then ignore settings, and you'll have a little box in here where you'll be able to put in a power anywhere up to 100 million, where you won't get scouting or attack notifications from anyone below that power anymore. So this will be useful for blocking notifications if you're attacking yourself with Hoff accounts, or maybe small accounts that are spamming you with one troop or something like that. To be safe, honestly, for me, I'm just going to keep that off, because a small account can still scout you, and attacks themselves can be scouts from small accounts, so there is risk if you just fully block everything below this power range. And another nice addition in this update, which for some reason was not listed anywhere in the patch notes, which is a bit weird because this is a very nice change. I don't know why they wouldn't list this anywhere. Is you can now actually pin commanders to the top of the change lord screen. So previously, the ordering of commanders in here was a bit random. The ordering was fixed, but you had no control over that in any way. Now it just exactly mirrors the ordering of the commander list here. So you can manipulate that obviously by pinning commanders to the top of it with this button here, pin. So when you click that, they will then be pinned to the top of this list, no matter the rarity, the rank, the awakening level. And with that, you can then pin the commanders that you want to swap in and out as your lord to the top of this list. And that will make swapping between lords way, way more convenient than it ever was before. So those are the main changes of the update. Just a lot of quality of life things. The Weirwood chest is a really, really nice addition. And then we have the release of Cassana. So obviously, as the cavalry version of Sararer and Vorian, she is always going to be good. She is a Salma replacement. And weirdly, I've seen a lot of negative reactions to her. A lot of people are saying she's not good, or at least a lot worse than Vorian and Sararer were, which I do not agree with. 4-star, you'll have plus 24% cav damage against Spearmen, which by itself is ridiculous and brings your troop type, which counters you, closer to neutral, which if you're at the spending level of having Cassana, will go a very, very long way of making you hard to beat in combat. But obviously everything comes down to the awakening skill. So at the start of the battle, Cassana performs prayer for 2 seconds, during which allied female commanders are under silence. This is quite confusing. Just read this as Cassana does not work with Salma. That's all this means. Her silencing the first second means Salma's active procs can't go off. That's all this is doing, because otherwise it would be too OP, because you could have the 1 second actives go off, and then what will be the 3 second actives go off. The snowball from that would just be too stupid. So that's why this text is here at the start. After the prayer, the active skill cooldown of all allied female commanders is decreased by 2 seconds for this battle. This is realistically the best part of her skill, and I think why some people feel a bit underwhelmed by her, just because it doesn't read as insanely as, say, Vorian's does, where it's just super bloated, where you're getting damage reflect, you're getting crit chance, you're getting mass applied bleeds. But the thing with this is her value then becomes inherently tied to the other commanders, because you're getting more casts out of these. So because of that, you're gonna stack Sanel's buffs faster and higher, and be able to get more procs off with the max buffs. You're going to be getting more wildfire procs off, so that's more damage. That also means more disarms, and the same with Dany. There'll be more disarms coming from her too. So I think the best way of showing this is probably writing it out. Currently, commanders do their actives at, assuming Salma is used at least, 1 second, then 11, then 21, then 30, and then the 4th or the 5th doesn't cast. You have 4-star Daenerys in there. Her 4-star reduces the active cooldown by 3 seconds, so you'll be able to fit 1 more active in this time frame. What the timings of Cassana here will assumedly bring this to will be give or take 1 second here or there, just because it's a bit weird with the sequencing sometimes, where like this jump is 9 seconds for some reason in reports. It should be around that, where you'll have an additional active per commander compared to what you have right now. And if it is Daenerys, it would be a 5-second active cooldown by default. So that should be something like 3, 8, 13, 18, 23, 28, 33, 38. So this means you're getting 1 additional active across Cassana, Layla, Cersei, and Sanel. And you're getting 3 additional actives across Daenerys for a total of 7 additional active casts across your formation. And then obviously that's going to be multiplied up by Layla's effect and Layla's weapon to result in somewhere between 11 to 14 additional actives on average, which is a lot. So if you're getting, say, 14 additional active casts, that's stacking Sanel way quicker. You're stacking this damage coefficient higher and higher, and you're then using that damage coefficient more and more. You're getting way more wildfire procs. You're disarming basically everything, especially if you have 4-star Daenerys, 4-star Cersei weapon. You will just slaughter infantry because they won't be able to do anything through the disarms. They already sort of can't, but with this, their damage output is just going to be totally cut off at the knees. Because Daenerys' weapon, for example, if we find her 4-star weapon, it is 2 lineups being disarmed for 7 seconds, so that's 14 seconds total of disarms. You're getting 3 additional active casts from her, so 14 times 3 is 42 seconds of disarms just from Daenerys alone. Then you'll be having the additional disarms from all these active casts going into wildfire procs as well. So if anyone says Cassana isn't good or Cassana is significantly worse than the other new F5s, I would be quite skeptical of that. You could maybe say she's more reliant on the rest of her lineup to be maximum value, but I don't think she's bad or worse. She's just more about getting more from these 3 commanders, more so than just being ridiculous in her own right. And then the last bit of her Awakening skill, additionally, allied female commanders immediately cast 1 army skills 1 time on enemies in the front column. Damage coefficient 200%, reduced by 50% for each additional target hit. I don't entirely know how this works. This is literally the day of the update. She isn't obtainable yet at the time of recording, so this last bit we're going to have to see how that works in reports to be able to properly map out and understand how good that is. But basically, it's just performing the same functionality of what Salma was doing for you already. For her guard and strategic skills, guard skills normally aren't of interest to anyone. I had suspicions that Vorian might be very good against rebel leaders when he released. He wasn't. He's useless against all of them. I haven't found a single formation where Vorian is actually good or better than existing commanders, even at gold 4-star. There's a potential where, because of the shield frenzy ability, Cassana could end up quite good against rebels, though. Because if this stacks and you shield her from herself and then Egbert, Marjorie, and anything else which gives shields, you could just stack her attack stats to the moon in a similar way of how you just infinitely stack Enzo's attack. But again, we won't really be able to test out C until she's actually available in game. And then her strategic skills, I think this is the most disappointing part about her. Increases the cav attack and health by 1200% for 5 seconds. Very meh. When the commander leads the troops into battle, all commander skills cooldown are reduced by 1 second. So this goes to 9 seconds cooldown rather than 10. After the troops led by him release their skills, weird translation, there is a 40% chance to release the same skill again. So that's basically just Layla's strategic skill, but with 5% more ability of a recast, which realistically isn't very good in my opinion. I mean, Cav in RTS game modes is already insanely good because of how strong the Sanel passive is. I think a lot of people think it's the Daenerys combination. I don't think it is. So most people, as far as I understand at least, and see from other people discussing this, think Cav is good because it increases the skill damage dealt by commanded troops by 180% for 8 seconds. So you use that, you then queue it into Daenerys' active, ideally hit 5 people if you're in All Out War or Siege of Winterfell, and it does an insane amount of damage. That is correct, that is a ridiculous amount of damage, but I think the main reason it's ridiculous is because of this last bit, where every time you use a skill, the cav attack stacks an additional 1800% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. You can at worst keep this at 2 stacks just permanently, which is such an absurd amount of damage. You can see how stupid this is in Lost Realm, where Sanel, Daenerys, Layla marches in isolation outperform Baelish, Jaime, Dana lineups, which shouldn't be possible because they're all focused on single target damage, whereas the Cav setup is AoE damage. So in a Lost Realm context, Spear should outscale that, but it doesn't. And I think the main reason is just that lower duration of the attack stat buff. It's just harder to maintain that for Spear lineups compared to the Cav lineup. So Cassana will slightly help that with the 5% extra chance. That'll be more Daenerys reprocs and also more Sanel attack stacks. The thing is just how much value is this cooldown reduction actually giving, because this will go to 9 seconds. For this to actually have value, you'll have to be averaging 3 seconds per active cast. I won't pretend like this is something I have extensively studied and researched, but I just don't think there's much value there. There's more value for this than other synergies, because you have Rage Recovery on Daenerys is active, and this can double proc off Layla or Cassana. But yeah, all in all, for RTS game modes, I don't think Cassana is that great. Vorian didn't end up that great. His damage is basically a single proc of Airmidon Chain Lightning, but on one target, in terms of the average damage when you math it out, which is pretty terrible. And Sararer is probably the best of the three of them in terms of that RTS skill, just because you get more Dana procs from his 60% crit compared to Jaime's 30%. So that got a bit rambly there at the end, but that is Cassana, and that is the update in general. So don't listen to anyone who says Cassana is bad. It's just not the case. She's very, very good, just like Sararer was, just like Vorian was. Make sure to pin the lords you want to be swapping in and out of to the top of your screen in here. Buy out those Weirwood chests when this is fixed up, and farm up your commanders as high as you can get them. Worst case, even if you don't need any of those commanders, you can convert them into epic tokens now, which is a nice change, assumedly. Because I think even to this point, most mid-spenders are still grinding out a lot of those epic token commanders. And yeah, all in all, another nice update. There's been quite a few in a row at this point, and it does feel like they're listening a bit more and putting more effort into giving us changes we're ourselves requesting, which is nice, and hopefully it continues on in this way for the foreseeable future.